Hi, and welcome back to this free-for-all Friday edition of Focal Point, AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. Happy to talk about anything that we've talked about this week, anything that's been on the news this week. Specifically, welcoming calls from LDS listeners on what appears to me to be the retreat of LDS leadership from the culture war on the issue of marriage, and from Roman Catholic listeners who, in response to what seems to me, again, this is the way it looks to me, I'm interested in what you think from the inside of the Roman Catholic Church, looks to me like a retreat on the part of the Pope from active engagement on the issue of the sanctity of marriage. One thing before we get to the phone calls, 888-589-8840. A lot of you are not going to remember this or may only remember it very dimly. The former Speaker of the House was U.S. House Majority Leader, actually, when the House was still in the control of Democrats, was named Tom DeLay, and he was called a hammer. He was the whip in the Senate. He would whip those guys into shape. Now, he was convicted. He was charged in 2002, completely trumped up, absolutely, utterly bogus charges. The prosecutor, Ronnie Earl, was a Democrat, very partisan. And remember, one of the things that we saw in the prayer that Solomon prayed for his people is that under the system of justice, under God's economy, that the guilty would be punished and the innocent would be vindicated. The innocent would be acquitted. Now, in this case, for the longest time, Ronnie Earl, who was the guilty one here, he was a prosecutor. He had no case against Tom DeLay, and yet he had to jury shop. He had to go to 4 grand juries to get an indictment against Tom DeLay, and he finally got a jury to convict him. And just yesterday, an appeals court, in a very unusual move, they overturned and declared him innocent. I mean, they declared an acquittal. This is very unusual for an appeals court to do something that dramatic, meaning that they knew that this thing, there was no basis for it. There was no substance to these charges. They were baseless. This was a prosecution that never should have been brought in the first place. And so Tom DeLay was vindicated. Now, the media, when this happened at the time, back in 2010, when he was convicted, I mean, that's how long his life has been in limbo. His life has been in limbo since from 2002 to 2013. That is a lost decade. That's 11 years of his life lost because the Republicans had a rule that they passed that if you get indicted for a crime, you have to step down from a leadership position. So he had to step down from leadership. Now, the Democrats don't have a rule like that because they knew if they had a rule like that, they'd have nobody in the Congress. So they don't have a rule like that. Republicans have a rule because they're trying to hold up some standard of ethics and morality in public service. So he was forced to step down, lost his leadership position, lost his influence, lost his position, lost his career, enormous sums of money defending himself. So for 11 years, he's had a lost decade out of his life at a prime time in his life. That's gone. Nobody can give that back to him. Nobody can restore to him his reputation. But back when he was found guilty in 2010, all 3 network morning and evening shows made sure to tell their viewers, but according to Newsbusters, Rich Noyes, last night and this morning, after an appeals court overturned that verdict and completely acquitted DeLay of those charges, none of the broadcast networks bothered to even mention the former Republican leader's exoneration or vindication. So as far as the public's concerned, that depend on ABC, NBC, CBS, as far as they are concerned, still guilty, still in prison somewhere. Well, let's go to the phones. Let's grab a call from Chris in Mobile, Alabama. Chris, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. How you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. Pope Francis has, and I'm Roman Catholic, he's had a few of his comments taken and put out there, and I don't know. I can't speak to the Pope's heart, and I just know that as a successor of Peter, I'm hopeful and prayerful that he will, be biblical in all that he's doing and be doing Christ's work and God's work on this earth. But, it is troubling to hear the way the tone of this last comment. But I think what we'll bear out with this Pope is that he's a very humble man. He's a very simple man. He doesn't, really like all the material things that go along with the papal office. He's in a small apartment. He's different than what he had in the past, and I'm hopeful that he is using the media and going to hopefully do it in a positive way. I do believe the church, the Catholic Church, and really all Christian churches, in my view, Brian, have been lukewarm when it comes to social issues, whether it be from a political correctness standpoint or whether it be from a fear of losing parishioners or whether it be, I don't know why, but the church, there's not been a strong presence from the pulpit, in my view, on the issues that you discussed. And I don't know whether it's not wanting to offend people. I mean, I know I'm a pro-life worker, and I know that, of these women going to get abortions, that 3 out of 5 of them had one before. I know the hardness of heart is there that wasn't there a decade ago. I don't believe the Catholic Church has changed in their view on marriage as, one man, one woman. I mean, in all of we have the same Bible, Brian. I mean, there's a few books that are different, but we have the same Bible. Everything we have in our Mass is right from the Bible. We believe that, life begins at conception and that it is, God is the author of life. So, I mean, the Catholic Church's teaching has not changed, and I don't think the Pope is going to be changing anything from his office in those terms. And I'm prayerful that he's going to clear all this up.
Yeah, well, and, it's very clear, and I think to be very clear about this, Chris, he's not suggesting any changes in Roman Catholic doctrine or dogma on these issues. It's more the way he's kind of choosing to kind of avoid controversy or confrontation on these issues. Let me give you another quote. He's talking about sexual morality. We cannot insist only on issues related to abortion, gay marriage, and the use of contraceptive methods. I have not spoken much about these things. So he's admitted that he has been silent on these issues, on the issue of abortion, on the issue of homosexuality, on gay marriage, that he has made a deliberate choice to be silent on these issues. And I guess that's the thing that's a little bit troubling to me, because he's saying, no, we still believe in man-woman marriage. We still believe in the sanctity of life. But I've made a deliberate choice not to talk about that as the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. And I think that's the part that's got some people a little bit concerned, that the doctrine is still there, the teaching is still there. But unless somebody is advocating for that, unless somebody is proclaiming that, unless somebody is defending it, then the fact that it still exists and is still there, it's like a tool that's in the toolbox, but nobody picks it up and uses it. So that's the concern I've got. And it sounds a little bit like you maybe share some of that same concern.
Absolutely, absolutely. And being on the ground in the pro-life movement, we would love to see more, preaching and homilies, regarding the sanctity of life, and what a shame that 30 to 60 children a week are killed here in Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah.
In the woods. And I'm prayerful that this will change. I appreciate your show and the things that you do on AFA, but I assure you that our God is a great God, and all's possible through Him. And I pray for the Pope every day, and I pray for really, anybody who is trying to do God's work. And I'm prayerful that whatever this is going on right now and what the Pope is planning to do, I think God's hand hopefully will be in it, and it will end up being a positive thing. And hopefully, we will see a repentance, a people, going to sackcloth, if you will, over what's happened the last 4 decades in this country. And I'm prayerful that the Catholics and the Protestants together will join together and bring this country back to the founding fathers' principles in which it was founded.
All right, Chris. Well, listen, I got to let you go. Another callers I want to squeeze in, but I very much appreciate you taking time to call in. And, it's interesting to me that the Pope is aware of the fact that he's been criticized for his silence, and he may be responding to that. I mean, that may have gotten to him. That may be why he came out and sent such a clear signal on the sanctity of life issue just yesterday after having been silent on it. So maybe he is listening to his own parishioners, appealing to him to be a little more forthright on these cultural issues. Let's go to Alex, Nashville, Tennessee. Alex, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I think the deal with the Pope and the Catholic Church right now is that they're feeling their authority on sexual matters erode beneath them as more and more reports of sexual misconduct and homosexual conduct from their clergy are coming out, mostly in Europe and in Italy itself. And so, I think their goal now is to keep their head down and avoid any more media attention than they've already gotten in that respect. So by, keeping silent about homosexual marriage, they're going to avoid reigniting a conversation that may turn back on, these relatively embarrassing reports that have come out about some of their clergy.
Mm-hmm.
And
All
so
right.
I think that's their motivation on that end.
All right. Well,
Secondly, though,
and you can understand. I mean, that's been a real problem for the Roman Catholic Church. The abuse of boys by priests has been a real long-standing problem in the church. I think they pretty much, from what I can tell, have got that taken care of. They've got it cleaned up. I think they're trying to do a better job of screening potential priests and make sure these kinds of things do not get repeated. But it's an interesting theory that you suggest. Maybe this is a way of sort of diminishing some of the scrutiny, Alex, if they don't make an issue out of the issue of homosexual conduct or gay marriage, but talk about safe things, talk about things that everybody supports, caring for the poor and all of that, that maybe it'll draw a little less scrutiny to what may be going on inside the Roman Catholic Church. All right, Alex, listen, I appreciate the call. Thank you for that. Well, that's it for the first hour of Focal Point on AFR Talk. We'll be right back. Maurice in Dallas, Texas, if you can hang on, we will try to get you just as soon as we can. You're listening to Focal Point on AFR Talk. We'll be back right after the news. Stay with us.